Hello and welcome back to Pass the Torch Legacies in Jewelry. My name is Nadja. Today I am bringing you into my shop, finally showing my shop tour, which is something that I have been working towards for about the last 5 months. I had a very urgent and sudden move in my life, and I went from a very small shop in my basement to this incredible space, and I'm so grateful for it, and that gratitude overwhelms me and makes me very excited and joyful to share it with you today. Before we get started, I do want to put a little disclaimer out there. There is a myth that I want to put to rest right at the start of this video. And that is the idea that a person is only as good as the tools and the shop around them. When you think about the definition of tools and what the function of tools actually is, it's to help. It's to help you and be helpers towards a goal or a dream or a construction. At their very best, they bridge the gap between your vision and the thing that you finally hold in your hands. But tools don't make jewelry. You make jewelry. I make jewelry. Even a room full of the world's finest equipment will sit in silence until someone with a vision comes in and actually utilizes the tools at hand. And so I just want to keep that in mind and speak directly to the young jeweler who doesn't have the kind of tooling yet to qualify a professional shop. You are your greatest tool. You are your greatest asset. And so while I'm going to be taking you around and showing a lot of the tool acquisition that I have accumulated over the last 2 years, I want you to know that I understand what it feels like to be young and walk into someone else's shop and have it feel like it's impossible, that it's really far away and unobtainable. Before I show you a single thing, I want you to hear me. I want you to know that this shop was curated incredibly intentionally. It wasn't curated slowly. I think that that's a thing that a lot of jewelers say is like start small and build slowly. I did start small, but I built really quickly because I knew in my mind the kind of jewelry that I want to make. For me personally, I want to make high, fine jewelry, and I need help to do that. And I knew the kind of caliber shop that I would need around me to be able to execute that vision. So I have quickly built up a professional level shop, but I'm not acquiring tools for the sake of acquiring tools. I'm only specifically acquiring tools that can help me fulfill the ideas that I have in my head and actually make them come to fruition. So I wanted to put that out there because I understand that feeling. And I'm sharing with you today, not to be boastful or showboaty, but to really say, hey, this is possible. You can do this. I did it very quickly. I'm still honestly sometimes surprised and shocked every time I get to walk in here and come to work. It's a joy to get to come to work here. I got some really good advice really early on, and it was build it and they will come. And I have found that to be incredibly true. I knew that if I built a shop that was compatible with really high level work, that I would be able to create an environment for myself where people came to me instead of me being at the dispense or disposal of another company and kind of at the mercy of whether or not they were going to allow me to work on their tooling. It was very important to me very early on to have access to my own tools, and it has far and beyond surpassed my expectations in regards to the freedom that it has given me in my career. My career started as a sales associate in a high luxury jewelry house. And so every day I saw these really fine pieces of work. And ultimately, one day, what happened, the reason why I made this massive career shift was I was spending all of my time in awe of these jewelry pieces, wondering how they were made, and ultimately just asked myself, am I going to spend the rest of my life selling someone else's art? Or am I going to go out and figure out how to make it and test myself and really become someone who has a vision in their mind and is able to execute it with their own hands? That's the purpose of this shop. It's also a sanctuary. It is a creative space that I feel very lucky and joyful to step foot in every single day. It is a community space. I invite people into my shop, but it's also a place where I feel like I can come to alone in whatever place I am in my head and spend time here and emote a lot of emotions, which is a huge part of the creative process. So again, I'm grateful to share this with you today. And I hope that you can walk away with the idea that if you put your mind to it, you really can achieve this. Because just 2 years ago, I didn't have a single tool. I'd never sat down at a bench. I had never put together a shop of any kind. I wasn't even handy. I didn't grow up around tools. And so now to be surrounded by a really high caliber shop, it just shows how quickly life can change. and how beautiful it can become if you surrender to the process. So, also before we begin, I want to thank PEPETOOLS for sponsoring Pass the Torch podcast at large. They also helped put together some of this shop. I will show you exactly what is from them and how I use their tooling in my work. Pepe stands for Precision Engineered Professional Equipment, and I am super grateful to work with them. So without further ado, welcome to my jewelry shop. Also, one last caveat before we get going into all of it, you will find that I have the habit of naming my tools. And this is a habit that I picked up from Peter Gilroy out at Bonny Doon. He put funny names on all of his tools, and as I was walking through his shop, he inspired me to make my shop a place of humor and fun and lightness and joy. And so I have had quite a fun time naming all of my different tools. This ladder here is Wimbayana for the height. And this is my grinder that I am still in the process of bolting down into the concrete. But this is Hot Rod. And I think that this is a very apt place to start. It is the first equipment that you see when you walk into my front door. And the reason why I think that is appropriate, one is because it's a grinder for ferrous metals, meaning anything that isn't precious metals, but also it's where I do all of my customization to my tooling. So I think what really separates high caliber jewelers from average jewelers is their ability to modify their own tooling. I also think it helps a jeweler really create their own hand for themselves. Having a hand in your work is just as identifiable as a fingerprint. So often, the ability to modify tools is a differentiator there. One of my earliest mentors said to me one time, and this just stuck so vividly in my head, he said that sitting down at someone else's jewelry bench was as intimate as stepping into their used underwear. And as gross and graphic as that may be, it stuck with me because a bench is so personal. It's such a personal experience to curate a bench that works for you. That's why I think a lot of jewelers have a really hard time working in shared spaces and sharing a bench and feeling like the tools that they modify then get remodified by someone else. And the ability to have access to your own tools that are yours that you get to modify that work for your workflow and actually help you as tools were designed to do is a blessing and a gift that I don't take for granted. Moving on to this whole section right here. This is my lapidary section. Lapidary is not something that I ever envisioned myself getting into, but oh my gosh, do I love it. And I don't think I could ever now separate my work from extraneous lapidary technique. This table is the game of stones. This is where I hold just a few of my stones. I try to purchase a lot of stones at auction. For example, I'm working on this really, really big black jade piece. I was able to acquire these 20 pounds of black jade via auction, which was fantastic. And so now I just have to figure out how to cut into them because I only have a trim saw and my trim saw is not big enough to cut into these massive pieces of jade. So I think it's about time that I get a power feed, but that's for later. That's to come. This piece of equipment right here, this is a cabbing machine for those who are familiar with lapidary work. This one in particular, I purchased from Kingsley North. It is a Cab King that I appropriately renamed Cab Queen. The two biggest producers of cabbing machines on the market are this machine as well as the Genie by Diamond Pacific. And the reason why I didn't want to go for the Genie was one, it was because it was significantly more expensive. And this was one of the first pieces of equipment that I ever purchased before I was really making any money in jewelry. And secondly is that it uses dirty water. So basically it has spigots in the tray that spit the water back up to keep the wheels moist. And I just hated it. So my preference is on this machine, it has a pump that pulls clean water up through and over the wheels via these spigots. And then it goes down into the tray and back down into a different dirty bucket. Another reason why I really like that is because I am able to consistently fill my reservoir water supply with warm water, which my hands are very tiny and bony, and I find that I cramp up really, really quickly if I am running cold water. So the ability to consistently keep the water warm helps me sustain a longer period of time working at the cabbing machine. Okay, so this is my trim saw. This is what I use to cut and trim any of my rocks that I have. I have fondly named it the Rock Father, and I am definitely in love with this machine. It's done a great job, but also desperately in the need for an upgrade. I think I need something like 14 to 18 inches with a power feed. So I'm definitely ready to level up in my lapidary equipment. Over here, this stump and this anvil was a Facebook Marketplace find. You will find that actually quite a bit of my shop was acquired via Facebook Marketplace. And this was specifically purchased from a retiring blacksmith. And I was super grateful that he was willing to let it go with the stump included. I use this all the time for any sort of forging and fabricating that I do. Also, in the name of forming, I have this stump that was acquired for me by my aunt, who is a woodworker in Colorado Springs. She's an amazing artist, and she had this for me and she leveled it. And I use it for also any hammering or forming that I need to do. These are polyurethane plastic formers as well. I just find that these are really nice for not marring or reshaping the metal in any way that you don't want. Important, we have the coffee machine and the bookshelf. I think I'm going to do a whole other episode just going over the books that I have and which ones I think are really mission critical. So over here we have what I have fondly named the Beast. It is the polishing machine, and I put this machine on actually a rolling table because it has the filter in the back. It needs to pull a couple feet away from the wall while you're using it. So I am able to do that. I'm able to unlock the wheels and pull it away and actually use the polishing machine appropriately. Something that I wanted to talk about, especially for young jewelers, is this book right here. This is the Eco Jewelry Handbook. And this is a practical guide for health and safety in a sustainable studio. This was a really important read for me as I wanted to make my studio as healthy as possible. Obviously, none of us want to give ourselves cancer, and a lot of the materials that we work with are carcinogens. And this book helps you decide and determine which chemicals to appropriately bring into your shop and which ones to forego, as well as healthy and appropriate alternatives. Okay, so if you're in jewelry, this station should be very familiar to just about everyone. This is my ultrasonic, fondly named the Jewelry Jacuzzi, my steam dragon named Smog, as well as Pickle Rick. This is my pickle, and I particularly put my pickle in a crock pot because I can warm it and control the temperature. I also put my pickle inside a beaker, inside a crock pot with water. I just find that if I make the entire crock pot solution pickle, it erodes the walls of the crock pot, and then you have to constantly be replacing your crock pot. So I find that when you submerge it in a vat of water and then keep the pickle in a glass beaker, it sustains the life of your crock pot. Here we have my fire station. I run propane oxygen as well as the occasional MAP gas. I run multiple torches, especially when I am pouring ingots. I am actually a little bit displeased right now with my ingot mold. It's really giving me a hard time because it cools so quickly. So by the time I actually pour the metal into it, it gets like these runny lines through the ingots and none of them are super smooth. So I need to figure that out. I've had my eye on the Casey Coke ingot molds. I'm hoping that that will help me troubleshoot that issue because a lot of my ingots have just been kind of runny. But I run propane oxygen, pretty standard, Smith micro torch. I keep all of my solder pretty organized in this little solder organizer. You can tell that I definitely accidentally burned a little hole into it. We're just going to keep going. I also run MAP gas when I'm doing really small micro connections or balling up gold wire. Because it is so hot, if you come in quickly and melt the gold, the heat doesn't even have time to actually transfer. So you're actually working a safer practice instead of leaving the heat on and allowing that heat to transfer through the metal and then eventually hit the stone. You come in so hot and so fast that it reacts really quickly, and then you can pull away and it stops the reaction. Okay, so now for the star of the show, this is my fabrication bench. I got this off of a jeweler who I've known for a really long time who no longer needed it and was able to sell it to me. I actually really am sentimental about this bench. It's from a shop that I used to work at, and it feels like the start of something really beautiful. And so I'm very attached to this bench. I probably will always have this bench. Two pieces of equipment on this bench that I consider to be my finest race cars. Firstly, I have the NSK Micromotor, which is a brand new acquisition for me. This is a really refined motor. The reason why I got this is because this is the exact micromotor that Jason Marchiafava recommends in his Pave class. I actually still need to go and get the 4-to-1 torque attachment that you pull this apart and you actually insert the torque attachment, which just refines the control that you have when using this micromotor. This micromotor is from GESSWEIN, and when I was talking to the GESSWEIN team, they actually also showed me this attachment here, which this is something that I only ever saw on the Bideko micromotors. I actually wasn't aware that the NSK had an attachment like this to be able to insert basically these ceramic filers. This attachment here allows for microfiling the way that I have seen previously in the Bideko. I did not know that the NSK actually had this attachment. So I'm grateful that the GESSWEIN team showed me that this was an option to add on to the existing NSK micromotor. Because of that sound, I fondly named this piece of equipment the Porsche. Everything that I show you today in regards to tooling in my shop will be linked in my tool guide down below in case you see anything and want to add it to your shop as well. A really fun favorite addition of mine is this power sander from PEPETOOLS. I fabricate hundreds of bezels, and so very often I will have a little lip on the edge of the bezel. And so now that I've been in a little bit of a pre-production and soon to be full production of my own line that I'm coming out with, this has been incredibly handful to just take that extra little lip and ledge off of the metal very quickly. This just attaches to your Flexshaft. I do have the original old style handpiece that's the old crank kind. So you do need that in order to operate this power sander, but it's fantastic. I love it. Again, it's going to be linked in the tool guide down below. It stays buddy over here with my IV bag. Again, I also do a lot of lapidary at my bench. And so I use an IV drip to keep consistent water pouring onto the petri dish that I'm working on and gently carving away at. Another thing that I love using at my fabrication bench, you can buy it for $30 on Amazon for one, or you can get the pack of 3 for $60, and they come in different grits. But this is the Ultra Sharp Diamond Flat Lap, I guess is maybe what it would be called. I use this all the time for flattening stones, for flattening metal. It is precision flat. And so when you're doing a lot of really fine calculated work, you can actually really depend on this to be consistent every single time. The diamond on it is really high quality. So there's not like these random lumps of diamond in there that throw off your whole filing. Everything on here is actually really consistent. And I keep it on top of this machined granite block, which is an engineer's block. Engineers very often have to have a perfectly flat surface. And so I use this block all the time. The other race car that I consider to be one of my finest machines that I have on my bench is my Lindsay pneumatic graver. So I purchased this graver from a gentleman off of Facebook Marketplace who loved it so much and took really good care of it. Unfortunately, he had a stroke and he no longer had the fine motor skills needed to be able to hand engrave. And so he wanted to make sure that this piece of equipment went to someone who was actually going to cherish it, take care of it, and use it well. And so I have installed it over here on my bench, and I have fondly named her La Ferrari. So I have my Ferrari and my Porsche flanking my two sides, and those two pieces of equipment have made me feel like I am soaring through the atmosphere, that really they're so precise and they're so fine. I look forward to producing a lot of very precise and fine work with them. Speaking of very fine elite levels of equipment, this is the PEPETOOLS 80mm ball vise with the brass collets. And I specifically emphasize the brass collets. I've used the plastic ones before. I'm sure many of you also have, and they just slip. And what this does differently is that it actually brings in pressure from both ends of the collet to maintain a consistent internal to external push on the ring so that it really actually locks in place and stays secure. So this has been a game changer. I love the 80mm specifically. I find that it's super easy to use, and I especially love it because it actually fits perfectly into my articulating arm. I'll get to that in just a second. Again, I'm going to link these down below in my tool guide that I have, but these brass collets are machined. They're exact. They're perfect. They come in obviously all these different sizes to be able to fit all of the various rings that you're working on. This is really great for stone setting, for engraving on rings, any sort of fine work that you can do and you need it to be really secure. This is by far the best setup that I've seen, especially for the price. You can get both the collets and the ball vise for a very reasonable price. Again, linked down below. If you don't have a ball vise, which was me, I didn't have a actually machined precise ball vise for a very long time. I just had one from China for a really long time, and it's really big. It's actually over there. I'm sure you'll see it. But this is my first really precise, manageable ball vise, and it has made the world of a difference. So as far as the ergonomics of my working condition, this articulated arm has actually been one of my favorite finds. I actually feel like I'm one of the first people to have it. I purchased it from the GESSWEIN booth when I went to go buy my laser. I was meeting with their team over there and saw this on their demo bench without a ball vise on it. It was just the articulating arm. And immediately I was like, what is that? Tell me about it. So basically, I love tools that were designed by jewelers for jewelers. This was designed by someone named Britton Wolfe, and it perfectly fits the Pepe 80mm ball vise. It has 2 points of rotation. Britton designed it after feeling a lot of fatigue in the wrists and wanting to improve mobility without increased pressure and resistance. I have not seen anyone else with this setup yet. I genuinely feel like I'm the first person to have it, and I feel like I came across it by luck and by chance. And so I'm very grateful to have this setup, because now that I've been working with this setup for a couple months, I would choose it 1,000 times over. It is by far my favorite. I feel like I have the most control. I feel like I have a really wide range of motion. Again, both the 80mm ball vise, the brass collets, and the articulated arm will be linked in my tool guide down below. Okay, a couple more things that I want to point out while I'm here. Again, I have my beautiful Ferrari Lindsay engraver that I actually keep installed on a brass pipe holder, and I just am so afraid of dropping this handpiece that I made it a home so I don't have to worry about it. This is really fun. I know a lot of people have seen these, but if you haven't, I remember my eyes basically popping out of my head the first time I saw it. I was historically notorious for being disorganized when it came to saw blades. And so this little organizer has actually been a game changer for me. It's really great. I travel so much and I go to other people's shops all the time. This is fantastic to just throw in my bag and take with me. I consistently use the nano blades, again from PEPETOOLS. I really like them, especially with the Haymaker from Lion Punch Forge. Lion Punch Forge was someone that I discovered very recently. I know a lot of people have known him for a while, but I also went to him and purchased a couple other things that I have actually really enjoyed using. He makes both of these templates, which help me for prong placement on a lot of baskets that I make, as well as he makes this little micro saw frame. And I think it's so cute and so fun and actually very useful when you get into really, really tiny work. This has actually been really, really fun to use and really great. So if you haven't discovered Lion Punch Forge yet, I have really enjoyed browsing his website and seeing what else he has to offer. I'm still in my discovery phase with a lot of the burrs that I'm using. So I have a lot of different ones. I have the Panther, I have bush burrs, I have Lynx, and I'm just getting to know these Comet burrs as well. I did use the Comet beading tools just the other day to tighten up a bunch of loose diamonds on my friend's wedding band. She walked in my shop just to visit me, and I was like, oh, do you want me to clean your jewelry while you're in here? And she was like, yeah, and she took it off and it has like all these crazy loose diamonds. And then I ended up sitting down for 2 hours, like tightening all her stones. The Comet burrs were very helpful for that. I was grateful I had those on hand, because if not, I couldn't have actually been able to help her. Also, all over my shop, you will find that I have these Storo tool organizers. And Storo tools, again, I love tools that are made by jewelers for jewelers. So the Storo guys are actually a bunch of brothers and a dad. They're all jewelers, and they created these organizers. They have a bunch of different types. I got to meet them at JCK, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that they're probably some of the nicest, most genuine people that I have ever met. So if you have not yet discovered Storo tools, definitely do. I love supporting people when they are both incredibly ingenuitive and also incredibly kind. So thank you all, Storo guys, for being a part of my workshop and helping me stay organized. You guys are awesome and incredible. And again, they will be linked in the tool guide that I have down below. So another thing that will often happen is there will be a tool that you want and simply cannot afford to acquire. So That was my situation with the satellite, which is a very common piece of equipment that a lot of engravers have. It basically is a platform that goes up and down and allows you to control the depth of field while you're engraving. I built this from a iron reclaimed piston from India. I found this at a local place in Denver called Rare Finds. They imported it, and it basically is just a crank that takes a platform up and down manually, and you can lock it in at a certain height. I just had a cutting board drilled to the top of this, and I'm able to basically recreate what is equivalent to a satellite for $200 instead of $1,200. And that's no shade to the satellite. I just simply couldn't afford it and tried to MacGyver my way through it, and this was the result. So obviously, anytime someone comes into my shop, they always ask about this machine. It's a laser welder. It's incredibly nice. I'm very lucky to have it. This is a Sisma laser. It is an Italian laser. And if I can give any advice to anyone who is in the laser market, it is buy Italian. There are a couple different brands that offer really, really high quality lasers, but I have found that when I was shopping, I went and tested as many as I could get my hands on. Far and beyond the Italian makes and models were light years advanced beyond the American made versions of the laser welders. If you can find an Italian laser, it is a really great addition to your shop. It will likely end up paying for itself sooner rather than later. This machine has allowed me to do so much on such a small scale. I was trained on a laser. I know that there are a lot of old school jewelers who don't need one, and I think that that's great. I am definitely someone who benefits from having it in my shop. You'll also find another example of a Storo tool organizer on my laser. This is specifically for organizing your laser wire. I love having all of my wire super organized. So this is my hydraulic press. This has been the machine that is so modular. It has expanded my understanding of what is actually possible. If you're familiar with the Pass the Torch channel, you know that I actually went out to Taos, New Mexico to meet with Peter Gilroy, who is the owner of Bonny Doon Tools. I got to interview him and also take a tour of his shop, which was incredible. It blew me away the quality of tooling and equipment that they are able to produce. So this is my 20-ton hydraulic press. I use it every single day. I don't think that there has been a single day in my shop that I actually have not put this piece of equipment to use, whether that's cutting, dies, forming, ring shaping, bending, all of it. I actually ended up going out and purchasing this entire Husky drawer organizer just to keep all of the Bonny Doon attachments organized in one place. Again, what I like about the hydraulic press is that it is so modular. So once you purchase the actual hydraulic press, there is hundreds of things, literally hundreds of ways that it could be put to work and utilized. It is such an incredible piece of equipment. I never want to look back. I always want to have this in my shop. Peter is also amazing. So know that if you are supporting Bonny Doon, you are supporting a small business. He and his team are a team of 4 people, and they operate, and when you interact with them and you purchase from them, it is as if you are interacting with a very large corporate company because of the quality of the work. But really, behind the scenes, they're just super intentional. They harden all of their tool steel, which is also a really key element in their tooling, is that you will always be able to use their equipment once you purchase it. It will never dull or lose its shape. It will always be the finest quality that it can be. I am so grateful to know Bonny Doon. You can purchase this equipment through Rio Grande as well as microtools.com. If you go to the Bonny Doon website, there's nothing actually there that you can directly purchase. Bonny Doon uses third-party distributors, but that actually allows them to keep their focus on the tooling unless you need to do some sort of custom tooling. So that's the other thing that they offer that people don't realize is Peter will do custom tooling upon request, and that really opens up a lot of doors. I didn't realize how intensive custom tooling was until I went to visit him. It's actually really incredible. So if you have not seen those episodes yet, please go back and watch them. They're really, really special. And it's probably one of the highlights of my year to have been able to go out to his shop and visit him and learn about Bonny Doon. So back over here, I do have drilled down into my tabletop, which again, this tabletop was a Facebook Marketplace purchase. It is the heartbeat of my shop. It is right in the center of everything and where I basically splew out all of my ideas. It's the key space other than my bench. I have the Guillotine Shear here from PEPETOOLS. This is the 4-inch Guillotine Shear. My husband inappropriately named it Marie Antoinette. He's very proud of that. But again, this will be linked in the tool guide down below. I use this a lot for prepping my practice plates. It's incredibly useful to be able to cut your own practice plates, but there are obviously 100 more applications that you can use a guillotine shear for. In my opinion, it really elevates the shop. I am also especially interested and excited to begin making my own chains. So this jump ring maker from PEPETOOLS is really, really exciting. I already have pieces in my designs that are queued up to utilize this, so you will see it in action very, very soon. Okay, I've talked about this piece of equipment before. This is my rolling mill. This was ultimately the very first piece of equipment that I purchased. It is the PEPETOOLS combination rolling mill that I have affectionately titled SpongeBob, because I have these sponges on either side of the rollers that I coat with 3-in-1 oil to basically reduce any risk of rust. So every time that you roll through, it gives it that fresh layer of oil and just, again, keeps it nice for a very long time. This was the piece of equipment that I want to take care of. And if you take care of it, it will take care of you for a very long time. Ring stretcher, I named Gollum because of my precious. This was actually a piece of equipment that I purchased from PEPETOOLS at Tucson. It is a planishing hammer, which basically is just a fancy name for a large hammer that smashes down the metal and it makes it go in every single direction evenly. I use this a ton for bezels. I actually wasn't sure how much I would use it when I purchased it, and now that I have it installed in my shop, I use it every single day. I named it the Nope Rope because I very often bring my puppy with me to work, and nothing scares him more than just slamming this down. He got so scared one time, he actually went to the corner and threw up, and I felt so bad. So I don't use it anymore when he's in the shop, but it is incredibly useful and very, very helpful. So I named it the Nope Rope because it's kind of like a snake that you want to avoid, and my dog absolutely hates this, but I love it. So, okay, so over here in this corner of my shop, I just really quickly want to show the bags that I use all the time. I store them in the back corner here, but really when I was going around to all of my classes in the early days, I would take this with me everywhere. It fit everything that I needed. They're both from Husky. Again, I'll link them in the tool guide down below, but it allowed me to fit both my toolbox as well as any additional hand tools that I needed. And it just fit really easily into my car and rolled with me everywhere. And I think if you're just going around to classes and you're looking for a really elite way to store your stuff, these two Husky bags were really economical. And I found that I was taking them with me absolutely everywhere. And they were a really, really good purchase. Back behind me right here is my chemical cabinet. Nothing really exciting in there. It smells really bad. Again, I try to keep as clean of a shop as I can possibly, but ultimately there are some chemicals that you have to bring in. And so I don't want to smell it. I don't want to be near it. So I store it in the chemical cabinet. That bench jeweler meme's named Bill Nye the Science Guy. And I thought that that was very appropriate. Thank you for accurately flagging my demographic and my age group. Okay, so this bench right here is also very sentimental. I find that I grow very attached to the benches that I put in my shop just because they are such a main staple. This is the stone setting bench from PEPETOOLS that I have again fondly named El Pepe. I keep all of my Lindsay sharpeners here. I purchased my Lindsay from a gentleman who could no longer utilize the tooling. So I keep them here, super organized. And this is just a CD holder from like the 70s. It came with a bunch of dust bunnies in it. I cleaned it out and I use it as an organization station. Again, these are those diamond flat laps that I was talking about. I use these all the time. I do have designated metal versus stone versions of this, and it comes in the 3 grits. So it comes in 300, 600, and 1200. It's $60. It's found on Amazon. It's one of the best purchases I've made for my shop to get really flat, fine sanding done. Again, I use these for both stone and metal. I have the original Lindsay sharpeners that are the perfect 1/2 inch height, I think is what he wants it to be. I actually don't end up using them because I recently acquired this really cool knife hone. So here, come closer so I can show you. So part of just being really transparent with where I'm at right now is recognizing how novice I am at engraving. While I have the Lindsay, one thing that I've been dreading purchasing just because it's so expensive is the Graver sharpening hone. And I was really discouraged because I was like, well, I just invested in all of these Lindsay templates. Do I really have to go and buy a whole other system just to be able to sharpen my gravers? And I was actually able to contact Jeff Park and talk to him about it. And he put me on to just purchasing a knife hone, which does come with the same 3 grit, is just as powerful as the other hones that he has in his shop. And he has all of them, every hone that's ever been on the market. He recommended this one. It is $80 and I'm able to use my Lindsay templates with it. And I am so grateful that he told me about this. Basically, it's just this little tiny knife hone that when you turn it on, it has the same amount of power as the really fancy, expensive, over $1,000, $2,000 hones that are available on the jewelry market. You can completely control the speed. You can control whether it goes forwards or reverse. The only modification I had to make to it is I took a piece of 3mm round acrylic and I epoxied it to the surface because Lindsay is very specific on the height that your graver angle needs to be at in order to accurately create the angles for the various different shapes of gravers. So again, I want to thank Jeff Park for putting this on my radar because it is an incredibly useful little piece of equipment that again was $80 off of Amazon. I will link it in the tool guide down below. One other thing that I do want to talk about is I do have this little RB vacuum right here. People don't realize how toxic carbide dust is. So anything I can do to try to mitigate the amount that I breathe, I feel like when I go to a lot of other engravers shops, they're just cranking down a lot of carbide engravers over and over again, and that dust is just going into the air and going into their lungs. Anything you can do to try to mitigate that and pull the carbide away from you and the air that you're breathing is a positive thing. So this is a little benchtop vac through PEPETOOLS. I will also link that down below. I really like that I have this little setup here. I think it's very safe and effective and very economical, which I'm very proud of. Anywhere where we can build a professional level shop and also be mindful with our finances is a win in my book. So this is, for me, a 10 out of 10 setup. Also over here on the Pepe bench, they have a perfect pocket for the Smart Pro Airdo. This is something I purchased probably about a year and a half ago. And it is a combination pneumatic engraving system as well as a micromotor. And I love it because it has complete containment, so it doesn't require a air compressor the way that the Lindsay or the Graver Max or anything else, which is really nice for someone starting out. I actually really wish that all of the local jewelry schools in my area were able to afford these. They're about $1,000, but again, it comes with a pneumatic hand engraving system and a micromotor. I used the micromotor all the way up until a few days ago when I got the NSK. The micromotor is actually really elite. I was so surprised by how refined this micromotor was. I loved using this thing. Obviously, the NSK Porsche, better piece of equipment ultimately, but this got me really far for a really long time. I did stone setting on this. I did hand engraving on this. I drilled lots of holes with this micromotor and it held up great. So again, I wish that these were available to students because I still use it and it's going to live here on this bench and I'm going to use it especially when stone setting. Fantastic little piece of equipment. If you haven't gotten a micromotor yet and you haven't gotten a pneumatic engraving system, for the money, hands down, this is the best on the market. The only downside to this engraving system is that it doesn't come with a way to sharpen any of the gravers. But I just showed you the $80 hone that's available on Amazon. So I would go there and get started because the best thing you can do is just start. Okay, so over here attached to El Pepe is my hammer shelf that I have fondly named Thor's Closet. This is just a little wood shelf that again I found on Amazon. I feel like out of almost anything in my entire shop, this gets the most questions of where did you get that? It's on Amazon. Again, I will link it down below for anyone who wants it, but it's a great way to display and hold all of your hammers. I actually just have it even Velcroed to this Pepe bench and it holds, which is really great and it looks good. Over here, I have a light box. So I know that there are some really refined, high-level light boxes that are available in the jewelry market that everyone's familiar with. I did not have the means to go out and buy one of those. So this is just a really affordable light box, again, from Amazon that I will link down below. Really, when it comes to jewelry photography, you just need consistent, soft light coming from all angles. And that's what this allows you to do. I think the better investment would be a really nice high quality camera instead of just a really fancy box. Stored in this cabinet down below, I keep my pen plating station. So this is from PEPETOOLS. I put it in an acrylic box because I was really hesitant to even bring any plating into my shop to begin with. But Pepe does offer a cyanide-free rhodium, which I will be purchasing in order to be able to use this equipment. But pen plating the inside of bezels is a really nice way to elevate a jewelry piece and have that light reflect back really beautifully. So I do want to use this, but plating in general has intimidated me for a really long time. So I'm going to gently dip my toe into the plating world by starting off softly with this pen plater. I will use it and report back, but I am very excited to start using this in my work. Over here, we have my spare bench or extra bench. I actually really use this bench quite a bit for wax carving. Wax is always so messy. You want to keep it away from your really nice high-end bench and all of your really nice metals. Obviously, it just explodes anytime you're doing wax carving. So I tend to do that here. I do need to get a second flex shaft to go right here, the same way that I have to get another microscope for El Pepe over there. There's a few things that I'm still acquiring and putting together, but it all comes together with time and in the right way when it's supposed to. I have the Kate Wolf wax carving tools. These are really, really amazing. If you're unfamiliar with Kate Wolf, she is an absolute icon in our industry, and I would love to meet her one day. I would especially love to interview her. Kate, if you're watching, I would love to connect. She's someone who I've only heard really, really positive, amazing things about. And I've had so much fun learning wax carving, the art of wax carving. And she has been such a formative person in that journey. So I want to purchase this from her, support her, linked down below in my tool guide. And then over here we have my desk. This is where I do all of my Pass the Torch editing and recording, as well as any admin stuff. This specific desk actually used to belong to my grandmother. It was her sewing desk. And so in many ways, I feel like she's here with me in this creative space as I am growing and exploring and developing into both a woman and an artist. Behind me is the very last station that I will share. It is my watercolor / gouache station. It's really special. Again, it's a desk that I just found on Facebook Marketplace. And it just, anytime I have someone come in and do a custom design with me, I do provide them with a watercolor rendering of the piece of jewelry that they are receiving, as well as a watercolor rendering for all my certificates of authenticity. So that is my little corner where I make all of that happen. And it is a really special place. As you can see, this entire shop is very special to me. And I'm very, very lucky and grateful to be able to have access to all of it. I hope you saw something today that you were inspired by or are curious about or thought was cool, or you have a similar piece of equipment to me and we're twinning, or you actually have a piece of equipment different than me and you think that it's something that I should have on my radar to add to my shop at a later time. This has been a joy to share with you. I thought that putting this shop together in less than 2 years was incredibly ambitious, and I think it was, but I do think it paid off. So if anyone else wants to start somewhere, I really recommend checking Facebook Marketplace. I recommend asking around to see if there are any jewelers in your area retiring. And I also recommend checking out PEPETOOLS.com. Thank you again to them for sponsoring this video. Stay tuned because now that I actually have built my shop, I get to start building jewelry. So I'm going to be coming out with a line later in the year, really trying to show where I am currently and where I am going to be going. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. It was an honor to share this with you. I'm extremely grateful for the community that Pass the Torch has provided me, and I just want to continue doing what has brought me so much joy this entire time, which is the relationship and the connection that jewelry provides. So stay tuned. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you on the next episode. Cheers.